What if everything you've been told about the origins of humankind is wrong? What if the true story of Adam and Eve is only a small part of a much larger, hidden narrative? For centuries, we've accepted the idea that Adam was the first human, the beginning of it all. But is that really the case? What if ancient texts, long overlooked, tell a different story? One of beings that existed before Adam, of civilizations hidden in the shadows of history. Could it be that the truth about the pre-Adamites has been concealed for thousands of years, waiting for us to uncover it? In this video, we will reveal the mysteries of Genesis, exploring the contradiction between the two creation stories in the Bible. We'll dive into the story of Cain, his wife, his city, and the unexplained gaps in the biblical narrative. But that's not all. We'll explore the incredible truth about the humans before Adam, those forgotten pre-Adamites, who may have walked the earth long before the first breath of Adam. As we peel back the layers of history, you'll understand why the conventional story of creation might need a major rewrite. And as we embark on this journey, think about this. If Adam was not the first human, what does that mean for the origins of our species? This video will challenge your beliefs and open doors to new perspectives. You'll witness how these ancient revelations may reshape everything we know about our history. What if you've been living with a false narrative all along? Leave your thoughts below. Let's spark a conversation. Could the story of Adam and Eve be far more complex than we ever imagined? Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned as we unravel these ancient mysteries. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, two different creation stories. In the beginning, the world was created. But what if I told you that the story of creation in the Bible is not as straightforward as it seems? What if the two accounts of creation found in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are telling us more than we realize, and their differences are revealing deep truths about the nature of humanity, the world, and our relationship with the Creator? When we open the first chapter of Genesis, we are presented with a sweeping, majestic narrative of creation. It's a story of order and harmony, of a world being shaped by divine intention. God, in this account, is referred to as Elohim, a title that speaks to the grandeur and power of the Creator. In this first account, we see the creation of the heavens and the earth, the land and the seas, the stars and the creatures. The creation of humanity is no exception. Elohim creates humankind in a single, grand act. He makes man and woman in his own image, created together in his likeness, simultaneously a powerful statement about the equality and unity of humanity. This first account is filled with divine harmony, a world where everything has its purpose, where everything belongs in the tapestry of creation. But when we turn the page to Genesis 2, a different picture begins to emerge. Here, the story narrows its focus, zooming in on the creation of one individual, Adam. The language shifts. Instead of Elohim, the Creator is now referred to as Yahweh Elohim, a more intimate name that emphasizes God's personal relationship with his creation. It is in this second story that we see Adam being formed from the dust of the earth, receiving life from the very breath of God. The Creator then places Adam in the Garden of Eden, a lush paradise, giving him a purpose and a mission, to tend and care for the garden. And in this story, woman is created later, formed from one of Adam's ribs, a symbol of the deep connection and partnership intended between man and woman. On the surface, these two stories may seem to contradict each other. One speaks of the creation of humanity as a collective act, where man and woman are created simultaneously, while the other focuses on the individual creation of Adam first, followed by the formation of Eve's. The order of events in Genesis 1 seems to suggest a harmonious and grand design, where all creation is made in an instant, while Genesis 2 seems to slow down the narrative, giving us a more intimate, personal view of the creation of humankind. But what if these differences aren't contradictions at all? What if they are pointing us toward a deeper truth about our existence? When we look at these two accounts through a lens of spiritual understanding, we see that Genesis 1 speaks to the collective nature of humanity, the unity of all people as part of God's divine plan. We are reminded that we are all created in the image of God, equally precious, equally worthy, and equally loved. But Genesis 2 brings us closer to the personal, intimate relationship that God desires with each of us. It's as if, after creating the world, God steps down into the garden to breathe life into the first man, to share in the creation of humanity in a deeply personal way. This duality is present in our lives as well. We are part of something much greater than ourselves, part of a grand story that spans across time and generations. And yet, we are also individuals, with our own unique paths, our own callings, and our own intimate relationship with the Creator. Genesis 1 teaches us about the unity of humanity, about our shared connection to one another and to God, while Genesis 2 speaks to the individual journey, the unique relationship we each have with our Creator. Together, they paint a fuller picture of what it means to be human, both part of a greater whole and a singular cherished creation in the eyes of God. Think about the moment of creation in Genesis 2, when God breathes life into Adam. This act of divine breath is not just a physical creation, but a spiritual one. It's a reminder that we are not just bodies, but souls, created with a divine spark of life, meant to experience connection, purpose, and fulfillment in relationship with God. This breath is not just the start of Adam's life, but the beginning of a journey that all of humanity would embark upon, the journey of discovering our purpose, our place in the world, and our relationship with the divine. And then, there is the creation of Eve. God saw that it was not good for Adam to be alone, so he created a companion, someone to walk with him through life, to share in the work of tending the garden, and to enjoy the beauty of creation together. This act, this creation of woman, is a powerful testament to the importance of partnership and community in the divine plan. We are not meant to walk this journey alone. From the very beginning, God designed us to be in relationship with others, to support and love one another as we fulfill the mission given to us. As we reflect on these two creation stories, we are reminded of the balance between our individual lives and our collective existence. The message is clear. We are both unique and unified, both created for a purpose and deeply connected to one another. The beauty of the Genesis account is that it holds both of these truths in tension, teaching us that we are part of a greater whole, yet also individually significant in the eyes of our Creator. The lesson here is that we must learn to honor both aspects of our identity, our connection to the whole of humanity, and our unique, personal relationship with God. Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis 2 are not in conflict. They are complementary, teaching us the balance between community and individuality, unity and uniqueness. In the end, both stories point to the same truth. We are created by a loving, intentional Creator who sees us, knows us, and desires for us to live in both communion with Him and with one another. As you reflect on these two creation accounts, consider the ways in which you balance your own sense of individuality with your connection to the world around you. Are you embracing the truth that you are part of something much larger than yourself? And are you also cultivating a deep, personal relationship with the Creator, who breathed life into you and sees you as an individual, uniquely cherished and loved? As we move forward, we will continue to explore the mysterious story of Cain, his wife, and the city he built, questions that have puzzled humanity for centuries. The story of Genesis holds the keys to understanding who we are, why we're here, and what our purpose is in this vast, beautiful world. And as we journey through these ancient texts, we uncover not only the history of humanity, but also the truths that resonate deeply within our own souls. The story of Cain, his wife, and the city. When we think of Cain, we often remember him as the first murderer, the one who killed his brother Abel, driven by jealousy and anger. But the story of Cain is more than just the tale of a sinful act. It's a story filled with mystery, unanswered questions, and surprisingly, divine grace. For many, the most puzzling part of Cain's narrative is not just the murder of Abel, but the story of Cain's wife and the city he built afterward. How did Cain find a wife if he was the firstborn of Adam and Eve? And why, after committing such a grave sin, did God allow him to build a city? Genesis 4 gives us the bare facts. Cain, after murdering his brother Abel, was cursed and cast out by God. He became a wanderer on the earth, a fugitive, without a place to call home. And yet, in the very next verse, we are told that Cain settled in a land called Nod, east of Eden, and built a city. But where did the city come from? And who was Cain's wife? To understand this mystery, we need to dive deeper into the text and consider the broader context. The book of Genesis gives us only a few details, but those details are powerful and lead us to ask important questions. If Cain and Abel were the only sons of Adam and Eve at that point, where did Cain find a wife? The Bible doesn't explain it directly, but there are several possible interpretations. One possibility is that Cain married one of his own sisters. In the early days of humanity, it is likely that Adam and Eve had many children, and it would have been common for siblings to marry one another in order to populate the earth. This explanation, though uncomfortable for modern sensibilities, fits within the historical context of the time. It also underscores the reality of the world in its early days, where God's command to be fruitful and multiply was being carried out even in ways that would seem strange or even morally unacceptable to us today. But the mystery of Cain's wife is not the only curious part of this story. After being marked by God and cast away, Cain goes on to build a city, something that seems out of place for a wandering fugitive. In a world where cities didn't exist yet, where humanity was still in its infancy, why would Cain be allowed to build a city? What was the significance of this? The city Cain built is not just a physical structure, but a symbol of humanity's continuing effort to survive, create, and establish a sense of belonging, even in the face of sin and punishment. Despite Cain's sin, God's mercy shines through. God's curse upon Cain included a mark that would protect him from being killed by others, which may suggest that even in his exile, God still cared for Cain's survival. The fact that Cain was able to build a city after his banishment speaks to the divine grace that still covered him. Even when we fail, even when we fall short, God's mercy can still work through us. This raises another critical question. Why would God protect and allow Cain to thrive after such a grievous act? Wasn't he deserving of complete destruction? The answer lies in the nature of God's justice and mercy. God does not always act according to human logic. While Cain's actions were wicked and the consequences were severe, God's protection of Cain shows that there is room for grace even in the most unlikely of situations. God's grace doesn't depend on our righteousness. It flows freely, even when we don't deserve it. From a spiritual perspective, the story of Cain and his city teaches us several lessons. First, it reminds us of the power of choice. Cain chose to let his jealousy and anger control him, and that choice led to tragic consequences. But even in the aftermath of his sin, Cain still had the opportunity to choose a different path. He chose to build a city, to continue his life, and to establish a legacy. This decision speaks to the endurance of the human spirit, the drive to continue even after making grave mistakes. Second, this story reminds us of the importance of forgiveness and grace. While Cain's sin was severe, God still extended his mercy. God marked Cain to ensure his protection, which implies that forgiveness is always available, even when we think it may not be. This divine grace gives us hope, knowing that we are not beyond redemption. No matter what we have done, we are never too far gone to be embraced by God's love and protection. The city Cain built also symbolizes the foundations of human civilization. It is the beginning of something new, a place where people can come together, build relationships, and create communities, even in the midst of brokenness. Cain's story shows us that even in the aftermath of sin, God can use us to create something meaningful. This is a powerful message for us today. No matter how broken we may feel, we still have the capacity to build, create, and make a difference in the world. But what about the descendants of Cain? The Bible tells us that Cain's descendants were known for their achievements in various fields. Jabal, the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. Jubal, the father of all who play the harp and flute. And Tubal-Cain, a forger of tools in bronze and iron. These achievements might seem insignificant at first glance, but they point to the idea that even those who come from a sinful lineage can contribute to society. God's ability to use people from all walks of life, even those who have fallen short, is a testament to his redemptive power. It shows us that no matter our past, we can still create beauty, bring forth innovation, and leave a legacy that impacts the world. As we reflect on the story of Cain, his wife, and the city he built, we are reminded of the complex and multifaceted nature of humanity. We are capable of both great sin and great creativity. We are flawed, but we are also endowed with a divine spark that allows us to create, build, and heal. And even when we stray, God's grace is always there to meet us, offering a path back to redemption. So, let us consider the lessons we can take from Cain's story. Are we allowing our mistakes to define us, or are we choosing to build something beautiful in the aftermath of our failures? Are we embracing the grace that God extends to us, even when we feel undeserving? And are we remembering that, like Cain's descendants, we have the capacity to create, build, and leave a legacy of goodness and beauty in the world? As we continue on our journey through the Bible, we will explore more stories that reveal the depth of human nature, the tension between sin and grace, and the boundless love of the Creator. The story of Cain reminds us that even in our mistakes, we are never beyond redemption. God is always ready to use us for something greater. The truth about the people. Before Adam. The story of Adam and Eve is one that has shaped much of human understanding about our origins. For centuries, Adam has been seen as the first human being, the beginning of everything. However, as we delve deeper into ancient texts and traditions, we begin to see hints of something far more complex, a story that stretches further back in time, to people before Adam. These individuals, the pre-Adamites, are often overlooked or misunderstood in mainstream interpretations of Genesis. But what if these people are not only real, but also hold the key to understanding a far more profound narrative of creation? When we turn to the Bible, the creation of Adam and Eve is central. But there are moments where we are left with lingering questions. In Genesis 1, humanity is created in the image of God, male and female, in one act of creation. Yet in Genesis 2, we see a more detailed and personal account, where Adam is formed first, followed by Eve. These two accounts can appear contradictory at first glance, but they reveal something deeper about the nature of humanity, how we are both a collective and individual creation, both part of a divine plan and unique in our purpose. But what about those who came before Adam? There are references in various ancient texts that suggest humanity existed in some form before Adam. These pre-Adamites, as some call them, are a mystery. According to certain interpretations of the Talmud, Midrash, and even the Book of Jubilees, there were beings on the earth long before the creation of Adam. These beings, although not necessarily created in the same image as Adam, were still part of the divine plan in ways we cannot fully understand. Their existence challenges the traditional narrative, opening up the possibility that humanity's true origins may be far more complex than we were ever taught. In the Talmud, there are mentions of human-like beings who existed before Adam's creation. These beings were said to have been formed by God, but they lacked the divine breath of life that gave Adam his soul. Without this breath, they were not considered fully human in the way that Adam was. They were alive, but in a different way, perhaps more like creatures, or beings without the fullness of spiritual life that Adam would eventually receive. This presents a fascinating concept. Could it be that the world was populated with beings who were not fully human, but still created by God? These pre-Adamites would have lived in the same world that Adam and Eve would later inhabit, but they were not part of the divine covenant that was made with Adam. The idea of pre-Adamites is also explored in the Book of Jubilees, an ancient Jewish text that recounts the history of the world from creation. According to this book, there were earlier generations of beings who lived on earth before Adam was created, who lived their lives according to God's design, but they were wiped out or removed when Adam and Eve came into the picture. These beings were not meant to be part of the eternal plan for humankind. They were a temporary creation, a phase in God's unfolding purpose. This concept raises profound questions about the nature of humanity and the timeline of creation. Were these pre-Adamites truly human? What does it mean for our understanding of humanity if there were beings created before Adam, ones who did not bear the same divine image or did not have the breath of life from God? Were they part of a previous era, an age of creation that was swept away, replaced by Adam's descendants? As we consider these questions, we must also look at other ancient cultures and mythologies that speak of human-like beings existing before the creation of Adam. In the ancient Sumerian and Babylonian traditions, there are stories of gods creating beings before humankind, creatures who were either created to serve the gods or who lived in a world of chaos. These ancient stories bear striking similarities to the concept of pre-Adamites, the stories of gods creating beings before humanity, only for those beings to be replaced or cast aside in favor of the humans who would carry out divine tasks, may echo the same themes present in the Hebrew scriptures. What does this teach us about the nature of creation? It suggests that God's plan for humanity may not have been a simple, linear progression. Rather, it could have involved multiple attempts, different creations, and varying forms of life before the divine breath of life was breathed into Adam. The pre-Adamites may represent a phase of creation where humanity was still being shaped and formed into the beings that would one day walk in relationship with God. It is possible that these earlier beings were not meant to be the final iteration of humanity, but rather part of a greater divine experiment, a step along the way in God's ultimate plan for the human race. But there is also a deeper spiritual lesson hidden within this story. The existence of these pre-Adamites shows us that even in the midst of failure or imperfection, God is still at work. God did not create these beings in vain, but rather, He used them as part of His ongoing process of creation. Even when things did not go according to plan, God's work continued, shaping humanity toward the ultimate creation of Adam, the one who would bear His image and walk with Him in the garden. This concept speaks to the grace of God, the idea that even in the midst of mistakes and imperfection, God's purposes are still being fulfilled. Just as the pre-Adamites were part of God's divine plan, even though they were not fully realized in the way that Adam was, we too can find redemption in our own imperfection. God can use even our mistakes, our missteps, to shape us into the people we were always meant to be. It also speaks to the continuity of God's plan. Just because a phase of creation was imperfect, or a part of history didn't go according to our understanding, doesn't mean that God's ultimate purpose for humanity was thwarted. The pre-Adamites may have been a stepping stone in the greater plan, much like the stages of growth we go through as individuals. Our failures and struggles do not define us. God's grace and His plan for us will always bring us back to the place where we can truly reflect His image, just as Adam was meant to. The mystery of the pre-Adamites challenges us to think deeply about the nature of creation and our place in the divine story. It shows us that God's plan is far more intricate and expansive than we can fully understand. It encourages us to embrace our journey, knowing that even the imperfect parts of our story are part of God's greater design. And perhaps most importantly, it invites us to consider the spiritual breath that animates our lives, reminding us that we are made in the image of God, created for a relationship with Him that transcends time and space. As we move forward, we continue to explore the mysteries of Genesis and the deeper truths hidden in the Bible. The existence of the pre-Adamites is a profound reminder of the complexity of creation and the boundless grace of the Creator, who works through every stage of history, shaping humanity toward His ultimate purpose. And as we reflect on these ancient stories, we are reminded that no matter how many generations have come before us, we are all part of God's eternal plan, and He has a purpose for each of us. Connecting with modern scientific discoveries. As we journey through the ancient texts of Genesis, we often find ourselves grappling with questions that transcend the pages of Scripture. The story of Adam, Eve, Cain, and the mysterious figures before them stirs something deep within us, something that beckons us to explore the intersections of faith, history, and science. Over the centuries, biblical accounts have been scrutinized, challenged, and reinterpreted. But what if the answers we seek are not only within the sacred texts, but also within the discoveries of modern science? Could it be that science, with all its advancements, is slowly uncovering what these ancient stories have been trying to tell us all along? What if the mysteries of Genesis and the existence of pre-Adamites are being confirmed through the very discoveries that are reshaping our understanding of human history? The tale of Adam and the first humans is often viewed through the lens of faith, but today, the world of paleontology, archaeology, and genetics is opening new doors, offering insights that were once unimaginable. The question of human origins is no longer just a theological discussion. It's a profound scientific inquiry that touches on our very identity as a species. What if the discoveries made by scientists are aligning with what ancient scriptures suggested about humanity's origins? Could the Bible's subtle hints about beings existing before Adam be reflected in the fossil records, the ancient ruins, and the DNA we carry within us? Consider the discovery of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other ancient human species that once roamed the earth. For decades, scientists were baffled by these beings. They were human-like, yet distinctly different from us in many ways. Neanderthals, for instance, lived alongside early humans, but had different physical characteristics and lived in a different way. Modern genetic studies have shown that Neanderthals and early humans were not entirely separate. They interbred, and their genes are still present in many of us today. This revelation is fascinating, as it hints at a time when humanity was not a singular entity, but a mixture of different human-like species, existing before the final form of modern humans was established. Could this be the very picture that Genesis 1 and 2 are alluding to? Could the existence of pre-Adamites be a reflection of these early human species that existed before the creation of Adam, as described in the Bible? Moreover, the discovery of the Denisovans, a group even less known than Neanderthals, has added another layer to this complex tapestry of human evolution. These ancient humans were identified through their DNA, and their existence pushes the boundaries of our understanding. The idea that there were multiple human-like species living on Earth long before what we traditionally consider the beginning of human history challenges conventional thinking. It aligns with the idea that God's plan for creation might have involved not just a singular creation, but a process that included the development of multiple human-like beings, each with its role and purpose. These beings may have existed before Adam, living their lives in ways that we can scarcely imagine. This connection between modern discoveries and ancient biblical stories highlights the complexity of God's creation. In Genesis, we learn that God created humanity in His image, and the earth was made to be inhabited. But what if humanity's creation was not a singular event, but a process, one that spanned eons, involving multiple stages of development, leading up to the moment when Adam was formed from the dust of the earth? Could these early human-like beings have been part of that divine process, living on earth before Adam was created, and setting the stage for the creation of the first true human beings as God intended? Furthermore, the study of ancient human migration patterns and the genetic diversity found in modern populations is shedding light on the interconnectedness of humanity. Scientists are discovering that early humans spread across the globe in waves, settling in regions far from their original home. This movement, this spreading of humanity, mirrors the biblical narrative of humanity's spread across the earth after Adam's creation. The genetic traces left behind by these ancient migrations tell a story of survival, adaptation, and the intertwining of human species in ways we are only beginning to understand. But the connection between science and Genesis goes beyond just the physical evidence we find in fossils and genes. It also speaks to the deep spiritual truths embedded in the human story. If we consider the idea of pre-Adamites, beings who existed before Adam, we are confronted with a profound spiritual lesson. The fact that these beings may not have been created in the image of God, and yet existed on earth, invites us to reflect on the nature of our own existence. We are, as Genesis teaches, made in God's image. But what does it truly mean to bear that image? The scientific discovery of early humans, those who lived before Adam, challenges us to rethink our understanding of what it means to be human. It invites us to reclaim the beauty of our own divine purpose and acknowledge the complexities of our origin. As we move forward, we must not see science and faith as opposing forces, but as complementary ways of understanding the world. The discoveries in genetics, archaeology, and paleontology do not negate the truth of the Bible. Rather, they enhance it, offering us new ways to see the divine handiwork in the natural world. The story of pre-Adamites may not be a straightforward one, but it is a story that invites us to consider the beauty and intricacy of God's plan for humanity, a plan that spans beyond time and culture, embracing the mysteries of creation that science is beginning to uncover. This intersection of faith and science calls us to a deeper understanding of our origins. God's creation is not static, but dynamic, unfolding in ways that we are only beginning to understand. The biblical stories of Genesis and the discoveries of modern science invite us to explore these mysteries, to ask questions, and to seek understanding. And in doing so, we discover a greater sense of connection to both the divine and to one another. Our journey through life is not just about knowing where we come from, but about understanding the divine intention that has been woven into our very existence. As we continue to explore these deep mysteries, let us open our hearts and minds to the possibility that the answers we seek may come from both the ancient texts and the scientific discoveries of today. The pre-Adamites may not be just a biblical curiosity, but a key to understanding humanity's true origins. And as we learn more about the world around us, let us remember that both faith and science are pathways to the same divine truth, leading us ever closer to the Creator who shaped us all. Exploration into the profound mysteries of Genesis, the existence of pre-Adamites, and the intricate tapestry of creation, there is something deeply humbling about the journey we've taken together. The ancient stories we've touched on are not merely tales of the past. They are echoes of a divine plan, unfolding across time, guiding us to understand more about who we are and where we come from. These are stories that invite us to reflect on the nature of humanity, the breath of life that was given to us, and the ever-present connection to the Creator who has woven each of us into His grand design. In this journey, we have seen how faith and science do not have to be in opposition. Rather, they work together, like two hands reaching toward the same truth. We've seen how modern discoveries, like those of Neanderthals and Denisovans, and the fascinating concept of the pre-Adamites, can shed light on the deeper meaning of humanity's origins, and how these findings beautifully align with ancient scriptures that speak of life before Adam. These revelations show us that the path of discovery is not limited to the realm of theological thought, but is ever expanding, revealing new insights about the world we live in. When we allow ourselves to embrace the complexities of creation, we start to see the layers of life unfold with greater clarity. We begin to understand that the story of humanity is not linear. It is expansive, filled with twists and turns, and divine grace that has always been there, even in the face of imperfection. Just as the pre-Adamites were part of God's plan, even though they were not fully realized in the way Adam would be, so too are we part of an ongoing story, a story where grace and forgiveness give us the strength to move forward, even when we falter. But this journey isn't just about looking back at the ancient texts or scientific discoveries, it's about looking inward as well. The lessons we find in these stories are meant to speak to our hearts today. They challenge us to reflect on how we live, how we interact with the world, and how we honor the divine breath within us. When we are faced with difficult times, when we feel disconnected from our true purpose, we can turn to these ancient lessons for guidance and strength. The Bible, in its rich complexity, offers not just history, but a roadmap for healing and growth, teaching us that even in our most challenging moments, there is always the opportunity for redemption, for renewal. If you've felt touched by the stories shared in this video, if the words we've explored have brought some light to your heart, or if you found a glimmer of understanding in these ancient mysteries, then I invite you to take a moment and share your thoughts. What part of the journey resonated with you the most? Did it make you question your own understanding of creation? How does the idea of pre-Adamites challenge or expand your view of the world? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Your voice, your perspective, matters, and by sharing, we can continue to learn and grow together. This journey is only possible because of people like you who are willing to seek knowledge, reflect on the deeper truths, and share that wisdom with others. If you found value in this video, whether in the history, the insights, or the spiritual reflection, I kindly ask that you show your support by liking and subscribing. Your encouragement keeps the light of this channel burning bright, allowing me to continue sharing these important conversations with you. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps to spread the message further, reaching those who may need it most. If this video has touched your soul in some way, if it has provided even a small bit of light during darker days, I ask that you consider supporting the continuation of this work in your own way. Your energy, your support, and your commitment to this journey, no matter how small, are deeply appreciated and hold immeasurable value. Together, we are creating a space where these ancient truths can live and breathe once more, where the wisdom of the past can guide us toward a better future. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for being a part of this incredible journey. I believe that as we continue to explore these timeless stories, we will uncover even more about who we are, why we're here, and how we can live in greater alignment with the Creator's plan. Let us keep walking this path together, seeking truth, embracing grace, and finding healing in the light of God's love. Your support means the world to me, and I am beyond grateful for the community we are building here. Let's continue to shine brightly, seeking wisdom and growing together as we uncover the beautiful mysteries of creation.